All right. Hey, Hawkeye fans, Chad Leistikow, Des Moines Register. I forgot to tweet out that we're going live, right? So I got to do that here in a second. But Kennington Smith's with me from the Register. We have not conversed. We obviously did not travel to the game today in the middle of a football week, but we will be on the road a lot this year for you guys for sure. But we wanted to discuss the Hawkeyes' 83-67 win at Seton Hall. Kennington, just want to throw it to you before I get going. I was able to talk to a few players, and so I have a little bit to report back. But just consuming this game on TV and kind of analyzing it, what did you think?
Yeah, I think that my biggest takeaway was this was a game where I think Iowa's team made a bit of a statement. And what I mean by that is for them to go on the road and play a tough opponent and face some early adversity. I think one of the questions that popped up instantly in my mind was who was going to be the one to stabilize the team? Who was going to be the one to step up? In the past, Jordan Bohannon has been that guy, veteran. Keegan Murray was that guy last year, and I wanted to know who was going to be the ones that stepped up. And I mean, I think a lot of leaders emerged tonight. Obviously, Kris Murray, career high. He tied that with 29 and 11. I thought Patrick McCaffery made a lot of big plays. Philip Rebracha was really good, as was Tony Perkins, Aaron Eulis, Connor McCaffery. I mean, veterans. I'm naming players who have been in the program 3, 4, 5 years, and Philip, who has played several years of college basketball. So the veterans really kind of brought it home tonight. That's what you wanted to see on the road. That's what you need to win games like this. And I think it was a big step forward for the team to be able to do that and secure a really good win on their resume early on, which is something that was a big talking point last year. So they checked a lot of boxes. There's a few concerns. Obviously, we'll get into those, I think, as the podcast goes on.
No concerns. 3-0.
I guess not. We'll save it for, our next availability or whatever.
No, honestly, they checked almost every box you wanted to see on the road. You put it really well. I mean, things weren't going great early. Offensively, get down 10-0, 10-2. I'm sorry, getting killed on the boards, and it's like, oh man, are they just gonna not come to play today? And I asked, who did I ask? Philip Rebracha. I asked him about that. He's like, oh yeah. He said, yeah, we all talked about it. We were playing way too soft. And I thought that was a pretty nice revelation and discovery early in the game, because when they came out of that media timeout, they played completely different. And that's also when Kris Murray took over the game. You had and basically just great defense then the rest of the half. I mean, Seton Hall shot 20% in the first half. So go on the road to play good defense. You have a star go-to player in Kris Murray, and then you make your free throws. You have to make your free throws on the road. And the Hawkeyes made 19 of 21 in the second half. That to me, Kennington, was a really, really good sign, because, you think about Jordan Bohannon last year, being kind of that put the game away guy at the line. Keegan Murray to an extent as well. And you lose both those guys. And, I mean, Aaron Eulis knocked down big free throws. Tony Perkins knocked down free throws. Philip Rebracha, the much maligned free throw shooter, he made some. And, of course, Kris was really good at the line as well. So, that really stood out to me, the free throws. All those three things: good defense when you need it, big buckets from a star, and free throws. That's really going to help on the road this year.
Yeah, and I'll throw in another statistic, which is turnovers. And we talked about this, I believe we were in the office yesterday, and I said I didn't think this was a particularly great matchup for Seton Hall just because of the discrepancy in turnovers that might manifest itself tonight. Seton Hall, first two games, about 25% of their offense came from forcing turnovers and scoring points off of those turnovers. They had 49 points off of turnovers in their first two games. You look down at the stat sheet, Iowa had 8 turnovers, and Seton Hall scored 10 points off of those turnovers. And then on the other end, Seton Hall has turned the ball over a lot this year as well, just their style of play and the pace that they play with. And Iowa turned them over 16 times in the game. I keep looking as I'm looking at the stat sheet. That's why I'm looking over like this. But so that was another thing that really stuck out to me. Team went on the road and took care of the ball. Didn't give Seton Hall a lot of opportunities, a lot of extra baskets. Obviously, the offensive rebounds were a big problem early. that kind of calmed down a little bit as the game went on. And Iowa made Seton Hall work for everything defensively. I mean, it was a grind for Seton Hall to score points, and that's what you wanted to see from Iowa's defense as well. Obviously, a huge talking point amongst the team. Peyton Sanford has been really vocal about that personally, and you can look at their first two results, and you can look at the quality of opponent and say, well, they play good defense against those two teams. Let's see them do it against a team a little bit closer to their level. And they did that tonight. So I thought that there was a big statement game defensively as well.
Yeah, they came into the game number 3 in offense and number 69 on defense in KenPom. And I just checked the ratings, and Iowa had moved up 9 spots on defense, Kennington, to number 60 in KenPom. I know it's early, obviously, but that was also something that Tony Perkins talked about after the game tonight was, hey, this is a different defensive team this year. They are really determined to do this and be a good defensive team. Now, the second half, Seton Hall shot the ball a lot better, but I think this is, I mean, if you believe Fran McCaffery, if you believe Kris Murray, they think this is going to be a good Seton Hall team. Kris Murray said that he thinks it'll be an NCAA tournament team. Fran McCaffery was really happy with what you said, how they handled the ball. He said, when you play a team that really comes after you like they do with defensive pressure and physicality, and then they come after you offensively on the dribble, you have to be able to handle that without turning it over. We only had 8 turnovers. So he was with you there on that, Kennington. He thought that, they hung in there at kind of that, I don't know if it's like, 40 minutes of hell quite type of style, but it was something different than they've seen. And so to handle that in a road environment. Now, Phillips said it's not like a Big Ten environment. The Prudential Center isn't like, going to the Breslin Center, but, still a road win is a road win. And when it comes to quad 1, top 75 road, as long as Seton Hall stays in the top 75, that's a quad 1 win. That's big.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is a quality opponent. Seton Hall has been a 20-win team 6 of the last 7 years. See what Shaheen Holloway's ability is as a coach and what he did with St. Peter's last year. And Seton Hall is a team that is bringing in new players. They're still trying to figure things out, but they gave Iowa a very good test tonight. And Seton Hall is going to continue to improve as the year goes on. So this is, again, like when you look at this non-conference schedule and you look at games like Seton Hall, you look at games like Duke, for example, there is opportunity for Iowa to kind of, as a veteran team, catch a team that is still trying to figure things out, and you get that win, and that team is going to improve as the year goes on, and that's only going to make your resume stronger as the year plays out. So really big win in that regard, and I do expect Seton Hall to be, right there in the tournament field come springtime.
How about Kris Murray? 29 points, 11 boards. I think this is what we expected from him. As Mike Halas, my colleague, our colleague at the Gazette, pointed out, same exact line as he had against Indiana last year. When he had that when Keegan was in foul trouble, and Kris had to step up, 29 and 11, and similar type of performance, right? I mean, where he just kind of took the game over when he needed to. I think that's just exactly what we expected from him. And it was nice to see him kind of do it all, like his brother did. I know we're not supposed to compare, but he looked, there's a lot of Keegan out there in Kris today where it just kind of took over the game when he needed to.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to Kris, I don't think that there should be any more questions anymore about his approach, his aggressiveness, him getting involved and being that dominant type of player. I know at least in the Truman State exhibition and maybe in the first game, he seemed, I don't know if passive is the right word, but he didn't really kind of assert himself early into those games. He kind of let it come to him, and he ended up with good statistics in both of those games. But this one was very much like, out of that timeout where they struggled early, it felt very much like, okay, give me the ball, let me kind of, stabilize things. I'm going to kind of lead us. And then, alongside of that, Tony Perkins played great. Patrick McCaffery, everybody kind of chipped in something along the way. So seemed like for a while, it kind of was the Kris Murray show. And he did, carry that through the rest of the game. And he, scored the game high 29. But it was really good to see others in the starting lineup have those big moments as well. And this is just a really balanced team. You see balanced scoring, you see balanced playmaking. It could be the night for any given, guy. I mean, Tony Perkins, 18 points. there might be nights where we're leading off with him as an 18-point scorer. Obviously, Kris had the 29 tonight, so we're leading off with him. But it's just a different team in that regard comparatively to last year. And seems like they're playing with a lot of confidence. And this was obviously a confidence booster, to get this and move to 3-0.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the Tony Perkins swagger. That we've got some questions on that in the YouTube chat here. Yeah, he's such a funny guy. He gets the technical foul. He said a fan was jawing at him, and he kind of, he had yelled. You saw him on TV yell "and one," and then he kind of directed another "and one" toward the fan. That's what he said afterwards, and that's what he got the T. And I think Hawkeye fans are right now digging the swag, and I think they will from Tony. I mean, he just plays. He plays different. I mean.
He's got that dog. He's got that dog in him.
Yeah, I mean it's fun to see. I mean, and it's not like he's graceful, but he scores, man. He get reverse layups, tough layups, drawing contact, and then he hits his free throws too. And 3 games in this season, and he's had at least 5 assists in every game. Tony Perkins, 18 points, 5 assists tonight. Really, I've seen other Cyclone fans, commenting about Tony. Well, man, Tony Perkins, he looks like a player. That's he's drawing notice. He's maybe probably the second best player in the team right now, right? I think.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, offensively, he's doing it. Defensively, he just brings an energy to the court. You can tell that the players feed off of him, and we heard a lot of that during Team Media Day, where the players, I think it might have been Phil or Patrick or somebody, was like, you love him when he's on your team. You hate going against him because he talks and he's energy. His teammates feed off of that. Obviously now they're all on the same side and they're going up against other teams. So you see his teammates starting to feed off of that. I thought that the way he responded in the second half after getting that turnover to start told us a lot about him. I think that I was looking forward to watching him perform in this game because I wanted to see how he was going to respond when there was a lot of on-ball pressure on him as the primary ball handler. And, there were some early struggles, as it was for the entire team. And then when he turned it over at the beginning of the second half, they started to go on that little bit of a run. You start to wonder, okay, what's going to happen in the second half? And then he didn't turn it over again the rest of the game. And he only had 2 assists in the second half, but he wasn't turning it over. He was taking care of the ball. He was making smart decisions. I thought Aaron Ulis as well played a great second half. Those two handling the ball and not turning it over and putting the offense in good situations to score, I thought was really telling. But as far as Tony Perkins, I think that he individually passed a really big test tonight. And, I wouldn't be surprised if, he was really the, starter moving forward. And this is kind of the lineup that they're going with. I know it's early in the season and there's going to be some experimentation, but I definitely think Tony passed a certain litmus test to prove that he is, a high-level starting point guard.
I wanted to talk to you, Kennington, about Fran's rotation. I mean, we, in the first 2 games and the exhibition, it's like, he's going to play everybody at some point. But we got a little bit of an insight into how he's going to handle this rotation. He really only went 7 deep today. That was a little bit of a surprise to me. It was the 5 starters, obviously, and then Connor McCaffery and Aaron Ulis, not DeSante Bowen, gets the bulk of the guard minutes off the bench. Ulis plays 27 minutes, 11 seconds, has the 8 points along with 2 assists and 4 or 5 from the line. DeSante Bowen just plays 3 minutes, 4 seconds, 0 for 1. And then Josh Dix plays 29 seconds. So between those 2 guys, they didn't play much. And it was just the other 7 guys the rest of the way. Was that a surprise to you? And do you think, is that I'm looking at the minutes here. Kris Murray plays 36 and a half, Tony Perkins 34, Phillip 35. Patrick only played 21, Peyton only played 19, and then Ulis and Connor got 27, 23. That was basically it. What did you think of the rotation?
I wasn't too surprised. I think that another question that I had was, how would the freshmen off of the bench respond in their first road test? And then I think as the game went on, you could tell how Seton Hall was playing. It just wasn't a game, at least in my opinion, that lended itself to having freshmen out there who could have been prone to making mistakes. And then you get Seton Hall on that run. So I think that what this game told me was Fran has a top 7. They're all veterans that they really trust. And I think that Bowen and Dix they're just going to need more time to develop, to earn that trust, to perform in these type of environments. I mean, think about the difference in the bench from last year to this year. You had Kris Murray, who had game experience off the bench, Tony Perkins, who had game experience off the bench, Connor McCaffery, Aaron Eulis, and then when they switched the lineups, Joe Toussaint had been in the program for 3 years, and he was coming off of the bench. And then you look at this year, you have Eulis, you have Connor, and then after that, you have 2 freshmen, and then Josh Gundalea, Riley Mulvey, and others who also haven't kind of earned that trust to be in these type of games. So it's just a much younger bench. So I think it's just going to take a little bit more time to figure that out. So that's just kind of what I took from it. I do think, obviously down the road, Bowen and Dix are going to have opportunities to play on the road. But I just think, for this game, you needed to have your veterans out there making smart decisions and, give those freshmen a little bit more time to develop.
Yeah, a great observation there. Just went with the veteran 7 on the road. And I think he proved you can win with a 7-man rotation. He's always been a guy that plays 9 or 10 guys pretty regularly. And it's interesting to me as someone who's covered him for so long to see him go with such a short rotation. But I think you're right. I think with that aggressive of a defense, 1 turnover can turn into 2 and snowball pretty quickly there. So it worked out well. And how about this stat? Aaron Eulis ties Philip Rebracha with the highest plus minus on the team at plus 16 today. So yeah. Aaron Eulis offers good minutes there. And Patrick McCaffery was plus 1. So he didn't play down the stretch. Peyton Sanford plus 8, which, most of Iowa's guys are plus, but, it wasn't Sanford's night. He was 0 for 4 from the field. That surprised me. His shot was just off. And I guess maybe that's, maybe he's the youngest guy of the top 7, I guess, but he had an off night, but other guys picked him up.
Yeah, for sure. And Eulis, I was really impressed with him. I thought that this was a bit of a statement game for him as well to kind of remind everybody, like, don't forget about me in this kind of point guard discussion. And I think another thing that we saw tonight that we haven't seen yet that I thought was telling, again, to your point, was the closing lineup. Yeah, Eulis, Perkins, Connor McCaffery, Kris Murray, Philip Rebracha, they played well together. And I like the idea of Eulis and Perkins in that backcourt, which we saw a lot early last season. Those two were the ones.
That's right. Roommates, right?
Together, yeah. And they were closing out games together last year. So to see that again was nice. And 2 capable ball handlers was obviously a lot of chemistry. So I think there's going to be situations where you see both of them on the court a lot, and often, in those winning minutes down the stretch.
All right, well, let's look ahead a little bit, unless you got anything else on this game.
I will say this on the rotation. It's very easy to play 7 guys when you only have, hold on, how many fouls for the game? They had 15 fouls, but nobody with 4 fouls, really anybody with like that significant of foul trouble. So that's going to be really important, especially Philip and Kris staying out of foul trouble to kind of keep that front court top line players in the game. So if you're going to play that many guys, can't get into foul trouble. They did a pretty good job of that tonight, but we'll monitor that moving forward. Yeah,
it was Big Ten officiating crew. I thought Iowa got a pretty good whistle, to be honest. 25 fouls on Seton Hall, 15 on Iowa. And, I know Seton Hall was more aggressive, but I thought there was a few calls where Iowa got a friendly call, I should say. I will say. I wanted to look ahead, Kennington, because as my lead to my story, and I'm going to update it, talked about, Fran McCaffery said this at Big Ten Media Days. This is the toughest schedule he's ever put together for one of his teams. And this was the first one of those tests, right? Seton Hall, 3, and Iowa passes, 16-point win. Margin of victory does go into that NCAA net ranking eventually. So, that's also important. But looking ahead, Hawkeyes get Nebraska Omaha on Monday. That's a team they should win by 30 or so. But then it gets tough again. You got Clemson of the ACC and then TCU probably almost for sure, which is the top 20 program. And then it's Georgia Tech, then it's Duke, then Iowa State, and then Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Like this is, I mean, if you want to be playing well, like right now already, these are important games in terms of what your resume is going to look like down the stretch.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and this was a very good first test. I think that, we learned a lot about the team tonight. I think the team learned a little bit about themselves as well. And I think that, the good thing in terms of the schedule and how it shapes up is that the important games you're either going to play at home or on neutral courts. Like they're going down to Florida for the Clemson and the Emerald Coast Classic, where they're going to play Clemson and likely TCU. They get Tech at home. Duke is going to be, a neutral site game. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Duke fans at Madison Square Garden, but you don't have to go to Cameron Indoor. You get Iowa State at home. And then following after that, you get Wisconsin at home in that, to end out that kind of difficult stretch. So get a chance to play a lot in front of the home crowd or in kind of like non-hostile, like true road environments. So I think that aspect shapes up nicely for them as well. So first road test, passed it, got a pretty convincing win. And it'll just be interesting to see kind of how they parlay this moving forward. I think that the biggest question, again, I think I said this on our last radio show, it's just going to be the bench. How quickly can they bring Dasonte Bowen along? How quickly can they bring Josh Dixon along? Can Josh Ogunleye continue to make steps forward and crack that regular rotation? And if Aaron continues to ascend, would they consider him at the 1 and Tony at the 2, maybe moving Peyton to the bench? I think all of these kind of questions centering around the bench and their production is what I'm going to have, my main focus on as we move forward in these next several games.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's nice to have a 7-man rotation if you don't have foul trouble and you don't have injuries, but they're going to need this bench probably really soon. We don't need to go on forever. I mean, this is one of 31 regular season basketball games, and we thought it'd be a fun treat to put one together after a nice road win for the Hawkeyes. We didn't do 3-word headlines. I guess maybe we'll just save that for Saturday night, right? In Minneapolis.
Yeah.
I should have come up with a 3-word headline coming into this, but good solid win for the Hawkeyes, 3-0, and all these matter when it comes time to making your resume in March. And I've been high on this team. I put them in my ballot this week in the top 25, my AP ballot. They're not in the rankings yet, but with more games like this, I think they're going to be. Any final thoughts from you, Kennington?
I think fans should be excited about this team. When the Big Ten media polls came out, I was at least surprised. I think maybe you were, that they were kind of ranked a little bit lower than we expected. I think, we both had them in our top 5 in the Big Ten. So it's kind of one of those things where I think Iowa kind of like snuck up on people late in the year last year with that kind of late February run. I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities for them to kind of plant their flag and make statements early on. This was the first of many tests ahead, and I'm really excited to see how it all plays out. Yeah,
and one final thought here that you just triggered. Kris Murray talked about they left him open quite a bit tonight. I think the scouting reports are going to be circulating quick. I don't think that's going to happen as often. So you're going to have, Patrick McCaffery, Peyton Sandfort stepping up. And tonight you did see Perkins and Rebraca obviously step up. Rebraca, I don't think we mentioned, did we? Did a double-double for the second time in 3 games. So maybe we did. His
ascension has been noticeable. I mean, the physicality that he played with tonight was a huge difference maker. He was playing tough on defense. His screens that he set, they were tough, and blocking shots. I mean, if he can continue in the area of this level of play, I mean, Iowa's going to be a really dangerous team. So you could tell that he took what happened in the offseason in Iowa kind of big man portals. He took that personally along with his own individual play, and he's definitely responded early in the season.
Yeah, he said he worked a lot with Bill Maxwell, the strength and conditioning coach, and he does feel like great observation by you, because he said that physicality, he feels it this year. He feels like he's more able to be more physical. 4 block shots tonight, 10 points, 11 boards, 4 block shots. Good game from Philip Rebraca. Good game for the Hawkeyes. Thanks for joining us, Hawkeye fans. We will talk to you again on Saturday night from Huntington Bank Stadium. And if you missed our Iowa Minnesota preview pod, it's up on Apple. It's up at hawkcentral.com. Audio only, but it's a good 54 minutes. Get you primed for Hawkeyes Gophers on Saturday. Be fun. Kennington, see you up there.
See you up there.
And
it's gonna be freezing.
Get your 3-word headlines ready, Hawk fans. We'll talk to you then.
All right.